Hi boys and girls, I'm Rosemary, and today I'm going to be painting this ceramic elephant with you. Isn't he cute? He's called a Little Pudgy Elephant Bank. And the first thing I would like you to do is to take the stopper out of the bottom, okay? We don't want to paint the stopper, so I've removed it from this one. All right, now I gave you 2 brushes and a bunch of different color paints. Now, I chose to do this elephant just in the gray, the pink, and the white, okay? But I gave you other colors, and you are the artist, so whatever you would like to do is fine, be creative, but I'm gonna give you some guidelines as to how to apply the color. All right, now we always start with a base coat, and that means you do the entire piece, everything, in one color. You don't start with the little dots or any designs you're going to do if you wanted to put flowers, if you wanted to put anything else on the piece. You always have to have a base coat underneath, okay? Even if you wanted to leave it white, we usually paint white on the piece first because if the bisque is exposed, it turns yellow in time, and it's always best to have that first coat down on the piece. So I chose to do the gray. I'm going to do the gray. I gave you other colors. I believe you have yellow and some other colors also, so you could do whatever you want to do. It might be a good idea just to do the whole thing in the gray and then go back and do the other colors on top of it. One color can go on top of another as long as it is dry. All right, so I'm going to start with the larger brush, and I'm going to start, I always start at the bottom so that it dries in my hand while I'm holding it, and then I could stand it up. So let's put on this first coat, nice and smooth. I don't want you to be globbing paint on, picking it up and just leaving it like that, because if it dries with ridges in the paint, it stays with those ridges in the paint. So you want to put on a nice smooth coat, go back and forth until it's smooth, and then you dip for some more paint in your brush. Always make sure that what you put on is dry before you put more paint in your brush. Okay, so we don't have to paint inside. There's no reason to paint inside. We're going to be putting money inside, right? You're going to be saving a lot of money so you could get the things that you would like. All right, so now I'm going to work my way up the side of the elephant so this will dry and I could stand him up. So I hold him in my hand until I get some of this bottom area done. And if you put your paints on properly, that bottom should just be about dry now. It should be dry already. The paints dry very, very fast because it absorbs into the bisque. Now, white ceramics is called bisque before there's any paint on it. Okay, it's still ceramic, but it's ceramic bisque. When it is poured and it is first comes out of a mold, it's clay. So that's called greenware. And after it's fired in the kiln once to like over almost 2,000 degrees, it becomes bisque, and that's when it's white like this. It's called bisque. Now you see how dry that is already? If you put that on properly, that will dry very fast for you. So again, now I'm going to work my way up the piece. I'm going to do nice broad strokes and get that gray paint that I'm doing gray nice and smooth. And if you put it on, like I said, properly, that dries very, very fast. And we'll just work our way around, and I'm putting it on the entire surface, on everything. Like I said, I think it's always a good idea to have a nice base coat on the piece. So I just want to thank you all for picking up these kits at the library. It's just so nice of the library to have me teach this for you. And I'm sure it's great when you guys are at home now and not able to go to as many places as you were in the past. It gives you a little something to do, and you could be creative and artistic. Okay, so I'm working my way up. Now, I can stand it up now, but in order to turn it around, I keep holding it in my hand as much as possible. You work however you're comfortable. Just keep putting it on, smoothing it out. You see that little, I have a little ridge there. I don't know if you could see it, that little ridge. If I let that dry without pulling that out, that ridge will stay like that. And I don't want ridges in my paint. I want them to be nice and smooth. So I make sure that I smooth it out. Okay. All right, so I have about half of him done. Now, if you wanted to do half in gray and half in pink, I mean, you could also do that. You could use your other colors as base coats also. It doesn't have to be entirely in the gray. Like I said, you're the artist, and be creative. That's what art is all about. It's creativity. And I learn from my students too. I would like, if you can, if your parents can, when you finish painting this, you should have my email on the directions. I'd love to see your pictures and how you interpreted this piece. It's nice to do these classes over the internet on YouTube, but then I don't get to interact with all of you, and I don't get to see your pieces, and I would love to see your pieces. So send me some pictures. I look forward to seeing pictures. And I always, when I paint, I always like, this has the little slot for the bank. I put a little bit on that inside edge. It makes it look neater that if you don't see the white sticking out there. Okay. There we go. Now I'm working my way around to the front, but I'm going to go back as I go around. I go back to see if I have any ridges, smooth it out. If I still see some wet spots, I smooth them out. And like I said, it dries very, very fast. And now I can hold it from the bottom because that's dry. And even put it in the ears. Even though there's pink in the ears, you have pink in the ears, I still put it in there. All my other colors that I do on the elephant are going on top of my base color. So whatever base color you chose, all your other colors will go on top as long as it is dry. Okay, this is a fairly simple piece, but you could make it as intricate as you want. I mean, you could hand paint flowers on it, you could put stencils on it, and you could use a lot of gadgets in your home to do different designs on pieces. You can use Q-tips to make dots. You can use toothpicks. You can use a lot of different things. We're going to be using the back end of the brush to make the dots. If you have sponges on a stick, you could use those. They work well also. You just have to experiment. Okay, I'm almost done. A little bit more. And then I'll double check it. I'll look at it from all different angles. I keep turning it upside down to see if I've missed any spots. Because even though you think you got it all, as soon as you turn it upside down, you see that little spot under his ear that I just missed. Okay, and then I missed the back of his ear. So just keep turning it around and make sure that you have good coverage. And you should have plenty of paint if you put it on properly. Okay, it goes really far. If you glob it on, then you may run out of paint. So put it on sparingly, smooth it out. Yep, I see a little spot on his tail I missed. I keep looking at it as I turn it around and just make sure I've got all the white spots covered. And that gives you a neat palette to start with. Okay, so there he is. He's got his gray on him. Now I'm sure if I turn him around in another direction, I'm going to find a spot here and there that I've missed. But I just want you to know to keep doing that. Keep going back and keep checking it. Make sure you have all of the white spots covered. Now, when you wash your brushes, this is important for your brushes. Don't bang them in the bottom of a water bowl. You swish them. And a water bowl could be any bowl you have in the house. The paints are non-toxic. They won't hurt anything. So just any little water bowl. And you should always have a paper towel handy also. Okay? And you swish that brush back and forth. And then when you dry it like this. You don't dry it, smash it down. That helps to keep the shape of the brush. Okay? So now I'm going to be doing my dots. I'm going to put a little bit of pink out and a little bit of white. Now the eyes, I didn't give you black. The eyes I just do with a magic marker, a black magic marker. Simple enough. And I hesitate to give out black because when I give out black, I know when I used to do the library classes in person, the black would get into the water, it gets on the piece. It's, you know, if you don't dry your brush well, it'll flow down the piece, and we don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the bigger pink dots right now. So in order to make those dots big, I want you to load up the handle of your brush. Okay, load up the handle of your brush and put that dot down, and now circle it, circle it, circle it, okay? Do a little bit more, circle it, and each time you circle it, it gets bigger and bigger. I keep adding more paint to the brush so that I could have big circles. Okay, that's how I get a big circle. Now when I do the white dots, I'm just going to do a little smaller dot. But I'm also going to show you how to do some flowers. Okay, I wanted to show you this. I just did this bucket, and you see these flowers on there? They're done with the back end of a brush. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that. You do it like it's a triangle. I'm going to do it in white so you can see it. So you do 1, 2, okay, 2 dots next to each other. You see that? And then we're going to put 1 dot like in the middle below it, so it's almost like a triangle. And then there's exactly the right amount of space in between those 3 dots to put 1 on either side, and that gives you an evenly placed flower. Okay, and then you can go back in with one of your other colors, the yellow or whatever colors I gave you, and you could put a center in there. You see that? And you could put a little center. And you could do a cluster like I did here. See that little cluster? And those lines are done with a marker. So that's very easy to do. You can do that. You just have to make sure when you use a marker on ceramics and on the paint that the paint is very dry, because if it's not, it's going to clog up the tip of the marker. All right, so that's a way of doing it. And then to do a leaf, which I don't have any green out here right now, I'll just do it in the pink. You can take the pink and you could just go like that and pull it down. See that? If you wanted to do some leaves, put the dot down and pull it. All right, you put the dot down and you pull it and you have some leaves. Instead of just straight down, you pull the dot somewhat. All right, so that's how you paint this elephant. And, oh, I wanted to show you how to dry brush. All right, now dry brush means a dry brush. So you're going to take your bigger brush and you're going to make sure that all the color is out of it. We're going to pick up just a dot of the white, very, very little of the white in the hairs of the brush. And then, oops, I got gray on my fingers. Then I'm going to wipe it out on the paper towel to take almost all of the white out of the brush. I just want a little bit in the hairs of the brush. And then you can go across the grain. So with his ears, I tip down. With his trunk, I went across. His ears. You see what that very little in the brush? Can you see what that did? That little bit? You don't want a lot because you're not really painting it on. So again, I'm going to dip for a little bit more, but I'm going to wipe it out, both sides of the brush. And I'm going to put a little bit on my tail in the back, on the bottom of my tail. Okay, and now you can also put some on his feet to give him some accent on his feet. And like I said, it's your piece, it's yours. You can design it however you'd like. Okay. All right, and now the other thing we can do to him too is you could take your pink and you give him little toenails. And now take your little round brush. And he's got little toenails here in the front. I believe he's got 4 or 5 on each foot. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is good. 4 on each foot. And if you go out of the lines, just make sure you let it dry before you try to touch it up. Everything is fixable. There are no mistakes. Okay, and if you do go out of the lines, you just let it dry, and then you go back like with the gray or whatever color that you need to go around it. Okay, see how cute the little toenails look? And the back one, it's hard to see, so I'm just going to put 4. Just the same way I did on the other ones, just ad-lib it. Okay, there's his little toenails, see? All right, and again, you swish your brush. You don't leave it, don't pound it in the bottom of the water bowl. And then when you get your marker, you can just do your 2 eyes with the marker, or you could do them in pink. But you do them, I'll do them in pink so you can see. You do them with the back end of the brush. Okay? 1, 2. See? And they make a perfect circle. And then you could also put a little bit of the color in the ears and in the mouth. I have some pink on his mouth. So again, I do it in a dry brush fashion. I don't really paint it on. I don't want a lot of paint on there. So I just put a little bit across the mouth. And sometimes the pink over the gray, you might need 2 coats, but I just put a little bit in his mouth. And then with the ears, I'm just going to pounce it up and down like this, just a little pouncing motion. So it doesn't look like it's just a painted blob in there. It's got a little pouncing in that ear. See it? And if it doesn't show up with the 1 coat, let it dry, and then go back and do a 2nd coat. Okay, so there's the ears. I have the ears done. You see that? Okay, and like I said, this one is a little darker, so I will put a little bit more on. And you could do as much white dry brushing as you want. Now, you could do flowers all over him. You could do polka dots in different colors all over him with the brush. And like I showed you, to do a bigger circle, just keep circling that big brush. Unless you have a sponge on a stick, that also works. And like I said, you can be as creative with him as you want. And to do these lines, like are in this bucket, those lines are done with a marker. But let it be dry, let all your dots dry. Dots stay wet for a very long time. So I would do them last, because as soon as you put your hand in those dots, you're going to smear them. Okay? So that's the elephant. And when you're finished, if you wanted to seal it, they have Amazon, Michaels has paint-on sealers that you don't have to spray. There are sprays, but sprays can be more toxic, and you should make sure that spraying is done outside in the warmer weather. But they have water-based paint-on sealers. I know Dunkin' makes them, and Amazon does carry them. You could order them from Amazon. Dunkin' paint-on sealers. And again, I would love to see your finished pieces, and you can email me at roecer@gmail.com. Thank you for taking this class, watching this video, and for supporting ceramics. And again, I can't wait to see your pictures. And thanks again. Have a great day. Bye.